Love Finance is the Other F Word and want to support the show? Pick up some merchandise at financeistheotherfword.com.
As fantastic a CFP as Mel O is, and as wonderful an attorney as I am, please do note that anything said in our show are our opinions alone and are not meant to be taken as financial or legal advice.
Welcome to Finances, the Other F Word, a Gen Xer podcast for musicians and music lovers, where we discuss money and music without all the pretentious bullshit. Here are your hosts, Zoe Terry, attorney at large, and Mel O, certified financial planner and author of Finances, the Other F Word. Listener discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone. That was Suicidal Tendencies, How Will I Laugh Tomorrow? And I'm actually not a huge Suicidal Tendencies fan. I saw them live. They were good, but Mike kept going on a diatribe before every song about, I don't know, something he was talking about. And I was just like, dude, can you just shut the fuck up and play something? You're hindering my buzz. Like, I don't need you to preach to me, between every single song. Now, I've only seen them that once. So maybe for those of you who've seen him different times than me, he doesn't do that every concert. But at the concert I saw him at, he did, and it was annoying as fuck. So thank you for joining me on Money and Metal. I was gone all last week. I am recovering from COVID. My body is pissed. I am under a fan with a blanket in my pajamas. I am cold flashing and sweating at the same time. So I got like all kinds of shit happening right now. And I was like, fuck it. I'm not even getting dressed. I'm in my pajamas and it is what it is. So today, let me introduce myself because I always forget to do this. So for those of you who don't know who I am, if you're just joining me, my name is Mel O. That is my real name. I am a certified financial planner and a licensed financial advisor. I have my Series 766 Health and Life designation. I am also a certified financial planner. Technically Health and Life license, and my designation is a Certified Financial Planner, CFP. My investment firm is Hot Moon Financial, so hotmoonfinancial.com, you can go to there. My podcast is Finance is the Other F Word. I have close to 400 episodes up there now. I think I'm like 2 away. And my book is Finance is the Other F Word, Another F Word to Love, and this is Money and Metal. I only do a couple shows on AMP. Sundays, I do a Futurama nerd show with me and Mr. Green because we're both Futurama nerds. And then I do Money and Metal Wednesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m. Pacific time. And then Tuesday at 4, I do Net Worth or Lyrics Lovers Lounge, but it looks like it's going to be Net Worth, where I talk about the money behind the mega pop stars and rock stars. Sometimes it's going to be about metal. Sometimes it's not. Last night's show was about Michael Jackson, who I fucking love. So we got a lot of stuff to cover. The main story we're going to be covering today is the government shutdown. Well, I'm sorry, the potential government shutdown, but I'll get to that in a minute. But there's a couple new developments that you guys might have seen that has came across your feed that I think is very important to touch on right now. I've been following the Ukraine war because of the simple fact that if we get drug into a World War III, it's not going to be good. And Dream was in here earlier. Hopefully he's still in here. And I know he always gives me shit because it's like, we're all going to die. Everybody have a great day. And I'm not trying to do that. But we have to be really aware that the potential, see, now I'm hot, so I got to get rid of the blanket. We have to be really aware that the potential for us as the United States with allies going into a World War III is becoming more and more a reality. And so the G24 summit was going on, and Biden was there trying to shore up loose countries to get them to our side, and, just doing, basic politically. Yeah, I just made that word up, and I'm going with that. I'm dying on that hill. So with that, we saw that Kim Jong-un, of course, the dictator of North Korea, went to visit Putin in Russia. Now, it is estimated that Putin is running low on ammunition. And of course, the only reason why Ukraine isn't so far is because other countries, including the United States, has been sending over old weaponry, ammunition, and different types of supplies over to Ukraine to keep them funded and fighting. And I talked about on one of my past shows about how much money we've given Ukraine, and the reason why we've given them money versus doing an actual war and what the difference in cost is. And it's literally a difference between billions and trillions. So, I'm sorry, millions and billions. So, I think that one's probably dropped off the replay now, but the point is that it's typically cheaper to fund a war that's not fought with American troops, not on American soil, by giving old weaponry to a country that we would like to prop up and or have win a war. Well, Kim Jong-un, who the North Korean economy is in the shitter, he went over to Russia, and of course, he made a speech. I think it was, what are we on, Wednesday? So a couple days ago or yesterday, saying that, you know, they have a sacred right, their sacred battle, Russia is with Ukraine, and that he is offering their support. Well, the thing is that we know that North Korea has been testing nuclear weapons. And the thing is that whether they are successful, sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But the point is that we're talking about a very small country with a dictator with probably a very small penis who is now posturing and rattling his saber and falling in line with Russia. And we know that China, there's been a lot of different, not sanctions specific, well, there's sanctions, but there's not specifically sanctions. But the biggest thing is, and I covered this on a previous show, Money and Metal, that the Biden administration has said no new investments to certain companies in the technology sector because they did not want China using Americans' funds to be able to create different microchips and semiconductors to be able to prop up their war machine. So that's caused a lot of tension. China says it's because the United States wants to corner the market in that industry, which could be true, right? I mean, that is probably a very happy byproduct of it, but according to the Biden administration, that's not what they're trying to do. So tensions between China and the United States are continuing to amp up. I do not believe that China, or I know Russia didn't, I don't believe China attended G24. And even though China has not came directly out and said that they are behind Russia, they are certainly allied with Russia. And we know that because of the Black Sea grain deal, which I also covered on a couple shows ago. So all of this is connected, you guys. So if you listen to my show for any length of time, there's a thread that goes through all of this. And it's important that you kind of understand why the events that are happening now are happening, because there's a series that got us there. So the Black Sea grain deal that Russia pulled out of between Russia and Ukraine, Turkey, and the World Health Organization, I believe that was who it was. It might have been, anyway, they pulled out of it. China was one of the biggest receivers of that grain. So no doubt Russia has backdoored and worked to deal with China, because there's no way they're going to make China go without grain when China's one of their biggest allies. And I remind you again, the reason why we talk about this is because China is the second biggest economy in the world. And the United States is the first, still. But China is coming up really fast. They're going through their industrial revolution. They've been making the change from agriculture to industries for the last couple decades, and they're becoming more of a formidable force. And now North Korea and Russia are all aligned together. And I don't know about you guys, but in my head, that tells me we have the making of a World War III scenario. And so I want you guys to be aware of this stuff, because yes, there's financial ramifications, but there's just a lot of shit that's going on. And we saw that when Russia invaded Ukraine, that it slowed down the commodities, the foodstuffs and everything that came out between Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine produced a ton of fucking food and commodities and grain because of their soil. I also covered that on another episode of Money and Metal. Again, all related. So we've seen that there's parts of Europe where they have been experiencing, besides utility price increases to 500%, we've also seen that their food costs have went up, and all kinds of shit is happening right now. So this is something that we need to continue to be abreast of, because if in the event that the United States does get dragged into a war with Russia, North Korea, and China, besides the massive loss, unless it's all drone, right, of American life, we're going to be looking at a whole fuck ton of money, because wars might temporarily or kickstart the economy, but they are extremely expensive. And that, again, is something that I covered on one of my previous episodes, which I don't know if it's still on the replay, but if it is, I would encourage you to listen to it because it's pretty astounding, the difference between the numbers. So that is one thing that is on my radar today, and we need to be aware of the stuff that is going on and how that can change things, because North Korea and South Korea is an ally of ours, is divided by like a strip, right? So it is very easy for North Korea to launch a nuclear weapon on South Korea. Now, I do not know if I'm going to have to Google that, if South Korea is part of NATO or not. But technically, if they are, then one attack on one NATO country is an attack on all, which means that we are in a war. So these developments are not super great. And I'm not trying to bum you out on a Wednesday. I'm really just trying to inform you, because in the end, we can't change it either way. And if you're an Xer like me, we went through nuclear war threats our entire time growing up. So it kind of is what it is, right? So I'm going to play a quick song, and then we're going to transition to our next story. And when I was listening to Tabor's show today, she was talking about Van Halen versus Van Hagar, and she was asking for opinions. Now, I am older than Tabor. I am in my late 40s. She is in her early 40s. So for her, it's Van Hagar because that's what she was raised on. For me, it's Van Halen, and she wanted to know people to weigh in on it. So I will tell you that fuckability, David Lee Roth all day long, not now, but back then, all day. Like all fucking day. That part of Panama when he slows down and he's like, I reach down between my legs. I'm like, oh my God, I want to reach between your legs. Are you fucking kidding me? So, but musicianship, clearly Hagar, hands down. And so I will tell you that David Lee Roth is a better showman, and Sammy Hagar is a better overall musician. And that same argument can be applied to MJ versus Prince. So here is Everybody Wants Some, and I'll be back as we transition to our next story. Dude, to be able to fuck David Lee Roth in the 80s and get paid for it, all day, bitch. I don't care. Call me a sex worker. Fuck y'all. I got bills, okay? So I did some quick Googling, and South Korea is part of the Indo-Pacific region, which also includes Australia, Japan, and New Zealand, and it is part of NATO. So we have two dictators. Just to follow up, we're all going to die. And of course, Dream Warrior put back in the chat, we're all going to die. So just to wrap up the segment, I'm going to just start calling We're All Going to Die, which is a great fucking idea, by the way. Good job, Mel. High-fiving a million angels. And so the thing is that in the event that two dictators technically three dictators who are all together now, if they want to start any kind of shit, South Korea is going to be the easiest way to start some bullshit, and, here we go away. So real quickly, I have a whole bunch of people in chat. I got Dark Goat Lord. He said he met Sammy Hagar in San Francisco, and he bought the entire kitchen staff an after shift drink, like 40 employees. That's awesome. Sammy seems like a really stand-up guy, probably less of a dick than DLR, to be completely honest with you. We got Rich in the house. That rocks. Great show this morning. Sanguine had popped in. Also, great show this morning. And let's see, I got Anya in here, but she's being quiet. Nas popped in, Gen X popped in. And Nas posted the Red Scare, and then somebody posted, I'm trying to find it, that that it's real again. So again, if you're an 80s babies, here we go. It was Nas. The communist threat is real again. Yeah, unfortunately it is. And I honestly thought that we had moved past that with the fall of the Berlin Wall and Gorbachev and Reagan seeming to play nice with each other. Of course, Dream Devil popped in here for a second. Iha was in here. I already said Rich. Is that everybody? Did I get every Dragon was in here, but he's quiet. Tabor, my girl Joe, was in here. I don't know if he still is. And I think that's everybody I got caught up on. And so the next thing we're going to talk about before we get to the main topic of our conversation for today is a trend that's been happening within the retail establishments. Now, I've covered on one of my previous Money and Metal shows how the changes in law in California and the rise of the pandemic in 2020 has caused crime rings of retail theft, where people go in as like a unit and they just load up a cart and then they just fucking walk out the door. And we see that, San Francisco is in a current doom loop. I've covered that and what that means for real estate, what that means for REITs, what that means in general. A REIT is a real estate investment trust. It's an investment vehicle for those of you who are not familiar with the acronym. And we see that more and more companies are falling under inventory shrinkage, which is their buzz line on their financial sheets for theft. And that is why we've seen in our local Targets and CVS's and stuff like that, where they've started having to lock away a lot of stuff. And I know even in the grocery store, in the cosmetic aisle, they've locked stuff away. And of course, at Walmart, they have also locked cosmetics away, and they have closed circuit TV because people are stealing shit. I got to grab my blanket again. 1 second. Okay. And, with all of that to say, we've seen that the retail establishments have been trying to adjust with the lack of police presence and with the government policy shifts that's happened. Again, California, we had some out of New York. New York is going through something similar right now, where we have these big major cities that got emptied out when the pandemic hit and people started working from home. And now we have all of this massive real estate that is still completely overpriced, specifically for the area it's located. Seattle is going through the same thing as well. And we're seeing this kind of ripple through all of the big major cities. And one of the things that we've seen is that your more myriad stores like your Targets and your Macy's and your Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom's, things like that, they have started employing less people. And Best Buy, stuff like that. So what you're seeing that if you go into these stores, you can't fucking find anybody that works there, right? Like you're walking around forever, or you need to ring a bell to get somebody to unlock stuff. But that to me is not the story. There's a deeper story there, and I want you to follow with me. And maybe I'm presuming too much, but I don't think so. So there's a couple things that's going to affect. First of all, when you're talking about retail jobs, you're talking about jobs that do not typically require college, that you can do with a high school diploma and or even not graduating from high school until you get to upper management. So they would be considered entry-level positions. And one of the things that we know that is happening with the way that our economy and everything is trending is that people are losing those entry-level positions. And then there's the whole debate over $15 minimum wage. I did a whole show on it. I think I did a Money and Metal show on it as well. And we're not going to talk about that today, but I'll be happy to rectify or to resurrect the argument over it because it's a big deal. But what's happening is that there's a couple things that are coming out of this. Less employees mean less entry-level jobs. Okay, so regardless how you feel about an entry-level person being able to make ends meet and be above poverty level, whether they're flipping burgers or they're stocking a shelf at Target, okay? I worked at the dollar store when I was going through my lawsuit with my previous firm, and I stocked shelves from 3 to 7, 3 to 4 times a week. And I made $9 an hour, you guys. I'm a fucking CFP. I made $9 an hour, but you do what you got to do, right? Now, the thing is that you could argue that in my case, $9 wasn't a big deal. And this was, by the way, this was just a couple years ago. This was not like way back in the day. This was, the lawsuit ran from, I started my company beginning of 2016. So 2016 to 2018 or 2017 was when the lawsuit finally got settled. So the thing is that for me, it was something to get side hustle cash that I could do before the market opened in order for me to fight these motherfuckers in court, okay? But for somebody who maybe has a kid or is, trying to do it solely by themselves, do you think $9 an hour is going to cut it, right? It's not. But so we have less entry-level positions for people that are coming into retail establishments. We have inventory shrinkage that you can, of course, tie it to a myriad of different things. Again, law changes, lack of police presence because of the law changes, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the other things that I started thinking about when I was thinking about the fact that there was less employees, eventually what's going to happen is that I think the stores that are retail establishments are going to be looking at smaller footprints, which means that Target is not going to have these massive, stores, where Costco and Sam's Club, of course, still will, because that's what they base their value proposition on. And if that happens, what that's going to mean is that more stuff that you want to buy at Target, you have to get online. And here's my question to you. If you need groceries, unless it's something Target exclusively has, is your first thought, I'm going to go to Target online and buy that grape juice? Or is your first thought, I'm going to go to Amazon and buy that grape juice? And I've talked about the monopoly that Amazon has. And you have to be cognizant of it, because the thing is that while it's very convenient, it is still edging its way ever closer to being a monopoly. And if we start having the retail establishments who have had to cut down on overhead by employing less people, start having a smaller footprint to try to pull more profit out per square foot, and have very specific inventory. First of all, the thing is that what can I get at Target I can't get at Amazon? Not a lot, motherfuckers. So Target and or Smith's and or, any of these other companies, CVS, Walmart, they're going to have to start cutting side deals and white label some stuff as their own. Because the thing is that if I need jelly, I'm not going to go to Target online to get jelly delivered. I'm going to use my Prime membership and get that shit delivered from Amazon, which means that by shrinking their footprint and letting go of employees in order to become more profitable, they are actually giving Amazon a bigger leg up. You guys feel what I'm saying? Right? Do you see what's happening right now? I don't know if you guys think I'm crazy, but I feel like the stuff is logical that I'm saying. And the thing is that we know that 400-ish people in America have 1% of the wealth. And the thing is that if we continue to move in this direction, out of convenience, out of pandemics, out of law changes, out of et cetera, blah, right? We are going to continue to move us into a position where we continue to have the 1% be getting rewarded in all the various ways 1,000 times I've covered on Money and Metal, which I'm not going to go into now. So when I read that article, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, when I read that article about their employees shrinking, I didn't think, oh, that's really sad. I was like, oh, fuck. Like, this is bad. This means that there's less entry-level jobs, which means that more people, and this is the deal, you guys. I'm not as smart as Neil deGrasse Tyson. Okay? I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not, a rocket surgeon, right? And there's certain things that I do not have the capacity to do. Okay? I just can't do it. I don't have the brain that thinks that way. I'm not that good at math. I'm just not that smart. But there are other people in our society that are less so. And for them, an entry-level retail position might be all that they can do. And I'm not putting anybody down or talking shit or being derogatory. I'm being real. So the thing is that we think about teenagers working at retail establishments, unless you're talking about Nordstrom's or something like that. But there are people in our society that is what they can do, right? So you guys can't do, well, some of you can, because some of you are in my field, can't do what I do, and I can't do what you do, right? We just don't have the skill set. Our brain doesn't think. We're all gifted with different things. And so this is a dangerous trend that I see that is starting to happen, and it is making me extremely concerned. And we see that the antitrust laws that have came through trying to bust up monopolies have been impotent as fuck, right? They're not doing dick, you guys. They're not doing a motherfucking thing. How many times can I cuss in 30 seconds? Fuck, shit, asshole, right? So the thing is that this flagged on my radar. As soon as I read that, I was like, oh, fuck. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on chat. Yes. Okay. So Rich, I was wondering if you guys could hear me, because what happened when Van Halen was playing is that it went staticky, like super loud in my ear. And then it did that thing where it skipped. And then all of a sudden the music came back on, but it was going like at triple speed. So it's like, everybody wants some, and I'm like, fuck, can people even hear me? And I was going to ask you when I first came in, if you guys could hear me, but then I got all fucking hot and bothered over David Lee Roth and money, because that's my thing. So let me just see real quick before I play the next song and I go on to our major conversation. Excuse me. So yeah, we have a lot of people would steal more deodorant though. Fucking for real, Nas, right? I mean, some people, and my nose is extremely powerful, so I will immediately gag. Not that way. I will immediately gag by smells. Like if you're one of my girlfriends and we go out drinking, Anya has never experienced this, but Maricel, Anya, this has happened. If I go out with one of my girlfriends and you get drunk, I will not hold your hair back. I will not stay with you. I will throw your fucking drunk, retarded ass into a fucking stall because you drank too much, and let you pray to the porcelain god until you get completely cleansed. And then I will help you to the car. But I'm not holding your hair. I'm not rubbing your back. I will leave you hung over the toilet for 30 minutes. Please believe I've done it before. So, whatever. Think of me what you will. So Trash is weighing in. What's going on, Trash? How are you doing, babe? Weighing in that he won't go to the store anyways because it's overpriced. Nas is agreeing with that. So that rocks me too. He says, I don't know. I still like to look at products before I buy them. Me too. 100%. I want to see it and then I'll buy it online, but I need to buy it face to face first. And $25. This is, and Apple just changed their charger. So that's a whole fucking another money grab. We already addressed the spotty audio. Sorry, you guys. I hope it's getting better. Can you guys hear me now? A little bit. Let's see. Mel got so horny for Dave, got amped, glitched out. Hey, whatever. I'm a powerful chick. I can't help you. Little Jobs is going to hurt the economy big time. Okay, it's fine now. Right on. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. I'm going to play some Black Sabbath. Then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the government shutdown, and I'm going to catch up on chat. Thanks for hanging out with me on Money and Metal. So every time I hear The Wizard now by Black Sabbath, I picture Gandalf. I can't picture anything else but Gandalf. Ian McKellen killed Gandalf. He in all of the fucking movies, the man is a master actor. I don't know if you guys are Lord of the Rings nerds, but I am, and I fucking love him. Plus, he is best friends with Patrick Stewart, who played Jean-Luc Picard on The Next Generation, who I just thought he was way sexier than Shatner, and he was a reserved sexy, you know what I mean? But Worf was my man because he was always ready to fight people, which I found a giant turn on for some reason. And so every time they would go into a conflict, Worf would say, "Today is a good day to die." And I'd like swoon a little bit. So anyway, I cannot listen to The Wizard without seeing Gandalf, especially when he pulls on the cart and all the fireworks go, because, everybody's happy when the wizard walks by. And so I can't not think of him now. And so as the song was playing, I had to look up his character and look at all the images. And I was like, he's the fucking wizard, man. So anyway, I digress. If you guys are also Futurama nerds, I encourage you to check Mr. Green and I. Sunday it will be on his channel. We will be discussing the season finale from season 1 plus one of the newer episodes. And when I tell you we are Futurama nerds, I mean fucking nerds. We follow the science through it. We follow different episodes. We cross-pollinate them like we're fucking strung out on Futurama. So if you guys are Futurama fans, please join us on Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific time for the Futurama episode on Mr. Green's channel. Then it'll rotate back to mine. We didn't do it last Sunday because I was too sick. So now let's talk about government shutdown. Downs, plural. And this is, we don't know for sure if this is going to happen because it's still up in the air. But if I had to bet, if I had to bet money right now, I would say we are going for at least a partial shutdown. But let's talk about what that means so you guys understand. So the U.S. budget fiscal year ends September 30th. Okay, so we're like in the second week of September, second or third week. What are we in? I don't even know. Let me look. I've lost a week of my life. Yeah, technically we're in the second full week of September. And so that means on October 1st, if we don't have a budget put in place that is proposed by Congress and approved by the president, then we are going to be completely fucked, which is going to lead to either a full or partial shutdown. So when Congress fails to enact 12 annual appropriation bills, then federal agencies need to either, if they're not approved under the appropriations bill, they have to start furloughing people. So my father is retired Air Force, my whole family's military, and last government shutdown, he was considered non-essential. So he got furloughed a couple days a month where he goes without pay. And they're just like, fuck it, don't come into work because we can't pay you. And that was that. And he works on base as a civilian now. So if they basically do not agree to pay these 12 departments and their funding, then what happens is we go into a shutdown. Now, I've talked about this before on my show, and I don't want to beat a dead horse for those of you who have been listening to me for a while, but it's important you understand how things work. And I know that since you don't run around in the financial space, or maybe you do, that a lot of these terminologies, you get it, but then they kind of fall by the wayside. So I've talked to you guys about the comprehensive budget. So the comprehensive budget is put together by Congress, then sent to the president, and then is approved by the president. Okay, so everybody knows how much money is going to need to be spent. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows how much money is going to have to be raised. Everybody approved it. Okay, everybody approved it. Everybody approved it. Okay, so this is leading up to putting that budget together to get it in front of the president, which again, we need to have in place by October 1st. Well, the House just came back. Was it the House or the Senate? Just is coming back today. I have it somewhere in my notes. I'll come across it here in a minute. But they just came. One of them is just coming back today. One of you guys might know, House or Senate. But anyway, so the 12 departments that they're trying to fund are agriculture, commerce, justice, and science, which is kind of weird that that's all lumped together. Defense, of course, and I've talked about how they appropriate the budget. I've talked about entitlement programs, and I've talked about how defense plays in the leftovers. Energy/water, financial services, homeland security, interior environmental, labor, HHS, and education all together under one blanket. The legislative branch, military construction/veterans affairs, state foreign operations, and transportation or HUD. Okay. And once they approve all 12 of those annual appropriation bills from the House, it goes to the president to get signed off on. So what happens is that the Senate Appropriation Committee is the one who puts it all together and then sends it to the House for them to debate it and then modify it if they want to. And then it goes back and forth before they agree, and then they send it to the president. And at that point, the president can either veto it or the president can say, okay, yeah, we'll do this. All right. So a government shutdown is different than the debt ceiling. Okay. Now, often a debt ceiling issue will result in a government shutdown, but they are not in correlation. Meaning, hold on, coughing fit. Give me 1 second. Meaning that they are not directly in correlation to each other. So it's important that you guys understand the difference. The debt ceiling, raising the debt ceiling, and I say this all the time, but I can't believe how much misinformation is out there. There's memes out there. My friends who have been on my show, Finances the Other F Word, post memes, and I call them out. I'm like, that's not how the debt ceiling works at all. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but stop causing partisan drama. That's not what the debt ceiling is. It's not how it works. Know your facts. Be with whatever party you want to be with, but know what the fuck you're talking about, please. So the debt ceiling does not allow us to incur more debt. The debt ceiling allows us to pay for obligations that we've already incurred. Okay, so when the comprehensive budget goes up, it's approved by everybody. Everybody knows exactly how much money needs to be raised to fund the budget, right? And so the thing is is that it's not a surprise. And it becomes a stumping tool for whatever party is arguing it at the time. And then they twist it, both sides, they twist it to make it sound like something it's not. And we do not need the debt ceiling. We don't need it. So understand the debt ceiling. Now, the debt ceiling will prevent things like us paying interest on treasury bonds, because there is a statute in the Constitution, which I think is like the 14th something. I don't know. I covered it in one of my previous shows. I have all the resources, but I don't know the exact one right now. But it basically says that as the United States, you cannot pick some bonds over others to pay. Okay. So the thing is that they say we can't pay anybody because we can't pick which ones we're going to pay. And that is why the debt ceiling debate is such a big deal, because everything comes to a screeching halt if they cannot raise the debt ceiling. Because basically what they're saying is we can't raise any more money. And because of all of the actions that happened on this last debt ceiling debate, there was, especially coming up in an election year, there was an agreement made between all parties that they were going to extend the debt ceiling through 2024 and 2025. Okay. And so that way we didn't have to argue about the debt ceiling at least for a couple years. And this is the trend in Congress, both parties. They just kick the can down the road because neither party wants to lose the ability to argue and or have leverage. And this is why the debt ceiling is so dangerous. So a government shutdown to me is not as scary as a debt ceiling, but a debt ceiling with a government shutdown, that's really bad, right? Now, so what happens is during a government shutdown is that some people are going to be furloughed and they're just not going to be paid. It is what it is. But air traffic controllers, law enforcement, they all continue to work. People like that, major, first responders, but they just don't get paid until Congress takes action. And again, Congress is full of 1%ers, so they don't really care because they're still getting paid. Their money ain't stopping, right? So even with that, that only represents about 25% of what Congress is fighting over, okay? So because a government shutdown without a debt ceiling debate, Social Security and Medicare still get paid because it's already been law. It's already been approved. So it's already been approved by Congress. It's already enacted. So those payments continue to go out while they start slugging it out. And of course, in just a government shutdown, they can continue to pay interest on treasuries because of the simple fact that it has nothing to do with that debt ceiling constitution argument that they can't put one over the other, where you and I can pay bills like, fuck, which one do I really need to pay this month and which one can I let slide or pay less on? United States government can't do that per the Constitution. So entitlement programs, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security still get paid, and they do not need annual approval. Now, you remember when we talked about Fitch downgraded the U.S. Treasuries, and I did a very, like an hour and a half show on why that's a big deal to you. Even if you don't own treasuries, why you should give a fuck that Fitch is downgrading the U.S. Treasuries. And one of the things that they argued, and where Fitch said they downgraded us, is because of these debt ceiling debates and potential government shutdowns. And now here we are going into a potential government shutdown. So I'm going to play my last song, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to let you know what the problem is and what we can expect, and the reason why I personally think we are going into at least a partial government shutdown and what that could mean for markets and all of that kind of stuff. So this is my last song, and then we'll come back and we'll talk more about the government shutdown, and then I will be signing off. So here is Hook and Mouth by Megadeth. So we are going to be finishing is what I was trying to say, finishing our discussion on government shutdown. I know I've said hi to a lot of people in chat, but I just want to say hi again because I really appreciate you guys. I know that there's a lot of metal shows that are going on where they're just playing metal and you can just like rock out. But the fact that you guys choose to sit and listen to me talk about money and macroeconomics, like seriously gives me a warm feeling in the cockles of my heart. So I already said hey to the dragon. Sanguine, I said hi. Dark Goat Lord is in the house. I'm sorry, I'm just tripping over all of my fucking words. I said hi to Nas. That rocks. And Twisted Tony popped in. I don't know if he's still here, but what's going on? And Dream Warrior cracking me up as always. He always has funny ass shit to say, which always cracks me up. And I think I got everybody already. If I missed anybody, my deepest apologies. But again, I sincerely, and Tabor popped back in and missed the whole discussion. Tabor, I was talking about your conversation today on your show about Van Hagar versus Van Halen. You were the genesis of that whole conversation. And again, Gen X was in the house, Hija was in the house, and Joe was in the house. And that rocks. I think I said that already, but I don't really know. So let's finish up the government shutdown conversation, shall we? And then I will release you into the metal wild. So if we go into a full shutdown, meaning that they completely cockblock the budget implementation or those 12 appropriations, then we will be going into a full government shutdown. If they do some of it, but not others, like if they agree on the defense, but they don't agree on other things, then those ones that they can't agree on will be affected. So this means that you could get delays on passports, SBA loans, some other government benefits, not the big ones, not Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, because those are law, but other government benefits, closing of bathrooms and visitor center and national parks. So some of you guys might remember during COVID that they had overflowing garbage cans in all of the national parks and people were just being dicks. I don't know what's wrong with humans. I don't know why we have to just be assholes everywhere we go. We also might see fewer food safety inspections, which, I don't know, that kind of makes me feel a little weird. And during a government shutdown, people cannot voluntarily work for free, okay, because that would be a violation of the Anti-Deficiency Act. And I don't know the details of that act. I'm just telling you that's what it is. If you have a hard on for it, Google it, then you tell me. I don't fucking know what's in that act. But the point is that you can't volunteer to work, which I don't know who the fuck has no life that they would be like, wait, I'm not going to get paid, but I want to work anyway. Yeah, fuck that shit. I'm somewhere else doing something else. Now, if there is any funding left in the previous year's budget, then some sites can still continue to stay open while Congress and everybody fights it out. So how did we get here? Okay. Let me preface this. I try very hard. I'm a moderate leaning left. Okay. And I try very hard because I don't believe that either party is right all the time by any means. I think they're all crooks out to get stuff. But I try not to say Republicans or Democrats, right? But this right now, this very specific thing is being led by House Republicans. So I'm going to allude to that, but I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to discourage you from voting Republican if that's what you feel. I'm not trying to argue with your fundamental beliefs. I don't care who you vote for. Right? I'm just telling you that this is what's going on. So don't get butt hurt, right? Is what I'm telling you. So again, if you've been following my show for any length of time, we've talked about the debt ceiling and the loomingness of it and why it is such a big deal. And I've touched on it again today. Okay. And we avoided a government shutdown and the debt ceiling debacle in June of this year with the signing of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. It was a bipartisan act that was presented and everybody agreed on it and everybody signed it and everybody got a little bit of what they wanted and gave up a little bit of what they wanted as well. Compromise, all right? And this was between Democrats and Republicans, and it raised the debt ceiling through 2024 and 2025, meaning that we would not have this argument about the debt ceiling again. In exchange for that, there was limits that were imposed of how much money could be spent. So that was the thing. Democrats did not want the debt ceiling debate to continue, and Republicans said, hey, if you're going to do that, you need to promise us that you're only going to spend X amount of dollars. And that's not to say that one side spends more than the other, because you would be surprised if you looked at the numbers, what you see. And this is why I love numbers, because numbers don't care how you feel, they're numbers, okay? And maybe at one point I'll do that. And I'll just go through the numbers. But the thing is that was the deal that was reached. Okay, so everybody agreed on it. So the Senate Appropriations Committee has taken those 12 articles that I've told you about, and they said, okay, per this agreement, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, we have all agreed, right, that this is what we're going to do. And so they did it, and they sent it to the House. Now, the conservative House Republicans are saying, yeah, we don't like the deal that McCartney, is it McCartney or McCarthy? I always forget. Let me look at it. Yeah, McCarthy. Okay, because I don't want to put him in the, like, I was like, is it like Paul McCartney or is it McCarthy? So conservative House Republicans do not like the deal that McCarthy struck. Okay, they don't like the agreement. They do not like the Fiscal Responsibility Act. So I think they're the ones that just came back today. And so everybody's under the gun, and they have threatened to say, we're not approving shit. And if there's a government shutdown, so be it. We're willing to go that route. So they agreed. And in an agreement, nobody gets everything they want. But there was an agreement on the table for the Fiscal Responsibility Act. We should not be going through this. But now the conservatives in the House are threatening to not pass it. And they have said openly that they are willing to go through a government shutdown. This is the reason why I feel like we are going to be on track for an actual government shutdown. Now, I do not have a crystal ball. I'm not a soothsayer. I'm not a wizard. I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but I've been doing this for a really long time, and I hope I eat my words. I do, because I don't want a government shutdown. It's not good for the economy, right? It's not good for the stock market. But if I had to bet, I would bet we are heading for a government shutdown, because we have till September 30th to figure it out, motherfuckers. And Biden has said that if anything comes across his desk besides what was agreed to with the Fiscal Responsibility Act, he will veto it, which means that it goes back down to the Senate and to the House, and then they have to duke it out. And then again, Senate has to send it to the House has to argue about it, then they have to come to agreement, then it has to come across Biden's desk before anything can get funded. And we've had so many government shutdowns. The fact that we even still work as a country and an economy is fucking insane. We are as resilient as a motherfucker, right? So the thing is that the House conservatives have said that they want to add provisions. So provisions on abortion, or I guess if you're a conservative, lack of abortions, contraception, which again, I assume if you're a conservative would be lack of contraception, regulation of tobacco, and health care for trans people that are not likely to pass in the Senate. And so the thing is that this is teeing us up for a government shutdown. And I'm sorry. So the House came back yesterday. Oh, my time is gone, you guys. So the Senate returned September 5th to hash it out. The House returned yesterday. And if we do not get the 12 appropriations, we will go into what is called a continuing resolution. If they can at least get that passed, meaning that they're going to put a Band-Aid on the budget to fund the next fiscal year, at least temporarily, while they hash it out so there are no furloughs and everything is still running. That is also referred to as a stopgap measure, which basically is like, hey, this is temporary. We're going to put this funding in place through the end of the year, saying that either everything will work as is or we will, do whatever. It's another Band-Aid technique to kick the can down the road. And if there is a stalemate, then what will eventually happen is that the continuing resolution, aka stopgap measure, will go away, and then we are going to be in deep shit. And so the thing is that if, for instance, that we come into a stalemate, then there is provisions within the Fiscal Responsibility Act that there will be a cut in spending to defense, a significant cut to defense. And that was one of the things that Democrats and Republicans agreed on, is that Democrats said we don't want to talk about the debt ceiling for 2 years because it is a campaign year, it is a voting year. And let's be honest, right? Having a debt ceiling debate in the middle of a campaign for re-election, which Biden is too old, all right, in my opinion, for re-election, you don't want to have that happen. It doesn't look good for them. And in exchange, Republicans got a limit on it. In exchange for that, if in the event that the Republicans did not play fair or they did not agree to whatever terms, then once these continuing resolutions stop, there is, according to the Fiscal Responsibility Act, a significant cut in defense spending. And nobody wants that. right? Nobody wants that. We all love America. We all want to be protected. And let's take it back around to my segment, We're All Gonna Die, which Dream Warrior has christened for me now. If you take that back to what's going on with the alliances that are forming between China, North Korea, and Putin, I'm not going to say Russia because I don't think the Russian people want this war, with Putin, then what that does is that puts us at a very vulnerable spot if in the event that they can't figure it out. Now, hopefully they can, and or the continuing resolutions give them enough time to get their shit together. That's going to be my hope, but I don't really think that that is realistic. And we do not want to cut in defense spending at a time where we have, greater threats going on over the place. So let me get caught up real quick here on chat before I bounce out of here. And if anybody has any comments, drop them, please, for me. Sanguine, I don't know if he's still, Bob Dole saved death metal. Is that because he was so against it? Educate me. I can't really remember. Bob Dole's kind of like a passing. All I remember is him, I think, in a Futurama episode. Trash the Place liked Hook and Mouth. Thank you. Let's see. Bagels. I fucking want a bagel so bad. Thank you, X, saying that you like the show. I appreciate that very much. Yes, Trash the Place. Now overflowing trash cans are the norm, especially at our beautiful national parks, which is really sad, which I want to point out that Teddy Roosevelt, who was a Republican, is the one who set aside those lands for preservation. And so I think we need to always remember that when we talk about, different things, we need to remember that he is one of the persons that is mainly responsible for setting aside our national parks. All right. And let's see. Of course, he did it because he wanted to hunt and kill things. But that's something else. That's your metal song. Numbers don't give a fuck. I love it. If somebody wants to write the lyrics for me and I can sing it. Lyrics, I need lyrics, and I need somebody who can rip on the guitar. And yes, we do need fresh meat. And if inspectors end up not coming into play, or there's less inspections, that could be a big deal, right? And let's see. Okay, so Sanguine is giving me some insight. Yes, he called out Cannibal Corpse for corrupting the youth and sold a ton of records. Also, PMRC stickers. Oh yeah, if you're Gen X, you remember that. It was fucking great. Feel better. Thank you, Nas. Not like today's conservative Republicans. All right. Dark Goat Lord has got me on guitar. That's great because I can't play for shit. Just so you know, though, guitars get me a little excited. So just understand that. And so that wraps up our show today. We talked about the government shutdown. We talked about North Korea aligning with Putin and China aligning with Putin and what that could mean. We talked about the shrinking footprint of retail establishments, what that means for overall job, for entry-level positions, as well as it means, in my mind, feeding the monopoly, which I fear, even though Amazon's not technically by a number considered a monopoly, I will tell you that Amazon is a monopoly, which means that we're just giving more power to the hands of the few, which is the reason why we left England, right? That's why we had the revolution. That's the reason why we did this whole thing and created this whole experiment that we call the United States. And we're kind of just falling right back into it. And it makes me leery. So with that, oh, look at all the applause. Oh, you guys are so sweet. You make the cockles of my heart so warm. I will see you guys back Friday morning at 6 a.m. Pacific time for Money and Metal. And then I don't know what else I'm going to talk about. We'll see what happens. And I really appreciate you guys for hanging out with me, especially to the end of the show, because I know that, again, there's other metal shows out there that are everybody's not going to die on and everybody's having fun. And the fact that you choose to jump into my show means so much to me. I really appreciate all of you guys for hanging out. I'll be back Friday morning. Sunday at 3 o'clock, I will be doing Futurama with Mr. Green. If you're a nerd for Futurama, check in it because you'll love the show. And then Tuesday at 4, I will be doing, for all these times are Pacific, I will be doing Net Worth, another episode of Net Worth, where we talk about the money behind the rock stars and all of their business follies and their business successes and how it shaped them. And with that, I appreciate you guys for hanging out with me. Amp, I am out. This bitch.
Thanks for listening. If you like us, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.